Hello again, Star Wars and Unboxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. I'm your host, Darth Tuba, and we've had a whirlwind of different types of episodes the last couple of runs. We've had the Jabba's Sail Barge that just came out, which was fantastic, and we are not done with that. We have a couple of other, I guess, residual unboxings. I don't know if you call them that, but I have a few items that I have in my collection that will go very nicely with that. For those that have been watching, I did find my skiff that I knew I had. What I didn't realize was that I never took it out of the box. So we have a bonus unboxing, which we will do shortly. But before we do that, I have something here that I want to do right now, and this is kind of weird. I don't know if anybody, for those of you that are collectors that follow the collecting scene, but there was recently an auction. Not an auction like on eBay or another one of those auction sites, but one what's called propstore.com, which is essentially a company that deals with movie and television props. Well, I don't know whether I guess they were selling or auctioning off a series of collections of vintage Star Wars toys. And when I say vintage, I am talking about vintage 1977 through 1985, 86, in that vicinity. Star Wars toys. And there was one item, probably more than one, but I was very lucky and fortunate in my life to be able to collect, even as a child, and be able to acquire almost all of the vintage figures, vehicles, play sets, that kind of thing. Now, I'm not a completist. I didn't get every variation. I don't have the double telescoping lightsaber, Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, nothing of that nature. But in terms of representation of the basic figures, the basic play sets, everything else, a couple of the exclusives, I was able to get them one way or another, either through my childhood or later on in collecting from flea markets or antique stores or whatever. But there was one item that escaped me. Maybe more than one, but one that stuck out in my head. Okay, and that is this item right here. Now I purchased it on the propstore.com. Now when I purchased it, it explained that it showed the box, and then it showed that it was it showed the pieces of it. Okay, and it said it was open. Okay, but what I didn't realize is that the box itself came boxed, like fully shaped, like opened up, which I thought was interesting. And the items all kind of came wrapped separately. So I thought, well, this kind of makes for an interesting unboxing as it is. Now, the first thing I want to get out before I start unpacking it is to show you this. This is the thing that they gave me. It's a little, basically just a card. I'm going to take it out of here so to avoid the reflection. But it's a certificate of authenticity, and this is what it was. And I'll get a close-up of this, but I'll put it here for right now too. Okay, this is from The Empire Strikes Back, the Hoth Ice Planet Adventure Set. Now, it's a little bit deceiving because it says unused, and it does very much look like it was pristinely kept, but just outside of the package. So I thought, that's interesting. All right. But when I first looked at it, you can see, though, that the box does have some damage to it. When you look at it closely, you can see even in the picture that there's some tape marks and stuff like that. But again, we are not a boxing show. We're an unboxing show, so I want to unbox it. So that's okay for me. Although, as I've shown you in my backdrop here, I do enjoy collecting, keeping some of the vintage boxes because I just love the look of the boxes. So why don't we just get started piece by piece, and then we'll put it together. Now, they came in 3 bubble wrapped sections, along with a very large piece of like a cardstock envelope, that type of thing. So we'll kind of go from smallest to largest here. Now, the Hoth Adventure Set is very similar in every respect to the Land of the Jawas playset. Now, the Land of the Jawas playset was essentially a small base that had a cardboard cutout put on the back of it, and then you had a few little play features in it, and you could set up your figures that had little pegs in it, so you can put the figures on the pegs. It was really cool. Okay, these are some of the pieces that came. Now, I think it did say that it was complete. All right, now here you go. These are still in their original packaging. Okay, this looks like some type of a tread piece of some sort. Here we have a bag that has a couple more pieces, and it was all in a Ziploc. As I said, I wasn't splitting hairs when it came to. Just looks like a lot of the construction pieces, the way that the pieces that you put together to kind of set it up. So I'm going to kind of put these on the side. You have a laser dish here. Okay. Again, I'll when I'm all done with this, I will put some close-ups together. So anyway, it was the Land of the Jawas playset, and it was the first time, for Star Wars fans, really. And we had gotten a few vehicles, but the Land of the Jawas playset was among the first actual play sets, and it was fun. It wasn't too big, wasn't too expensive. It was for 1970s dollars, it was a decent price point. Again, they kept it on the cheap with the use of got a packing peanut. This thing came in. I got to tell you, this thing came in a box. I am not kidding. This wide and this tall. I mean, this thing was huge. It was as if I bought a life-size droid. Oh, I have to say, I'm liking this super-sized Ziploc here. So here we go. Here's the base, and it's the exact same base as the Land of the Jawas playset. They also had another one called the Rebel Command Center, and the Rebel Command Center was the exact same thing too. They changed the color. So there you go. So I think we've got most of the playset pieces. I want to just open up this. I believe this is the box, and I believe it is empty. I don't think there's anything on the inside of it. I do want to be careful because I don't want to damage it any further. Okay, because as much as I might be I also going to need this because I don't know if this came. The one thing I'm not sure if this came with is instructions. So I might have to just kind of eyeball it and hope for the best. There's not too much to it. So let me take it out of this. Oh my goodness. Whoa. I thought that Ziploc was big. But the size of this Ziploc. It's crazy. This is awesome. All right. Let's put this over here. So here's a nice, here's a nice look at it. This is very much like what I did. Yeah, it looks like they just, oh my God, on the inside, it's basically, they just kind of, it even has the inserts and everything. They just decided to keep it kind of boxed, which I'm going to keep like this. I'll find a spot for it behind me to display it. But as you can see, it has a nice, trying to get it without the glare. It's got a nice picture, cardboard cutout of an AT-AT. And then it's got a few pieces on the side, pegs that you can put the figures on. And then it has a special feature in the middle, which I'll try to put together and show you, where you can lift off, from the back. You can actually conveyor a figure up into the back of it, like as if they're going into. It was originally from the Land of the Jawas playset. If you remember in the scene where R2 was getting sucked up into the sandcrawler, it was that kind of feature. It was designed for that. So that was pretty cool. Well, they have since rigged it to become something more of a way to bring another figure up into the back of the AT-AT. So that's kind of cool. And then this really, I got to say, I'm impressed by all of their nifty stuff here. I'm going to gently pull these things out. And honestly, these look very, like they had very, very little. Oh, and it doesn't come with instructions. Okay, cool. So here we have some of the cardboard pieces that are pretty much unput together. So I will put it together. Here's the AT-AT body. Here's the AT-AT head that has to be folded up. And in addition, it's so cool. Comes with not only the instructions, but it comes with the awesome catalogs. I absolutely adore the catalogs because they were just such a throwback from years gone by. So what I think I'll do is I'll set this up for a fast build, and I'll put this together on high speed, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. All right, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So I do want to talk about this for a little bit because I had the strangest, I guess you could say, very happy memory. I hope that some of you that are my age might share this with me. But most of these playsets, when they first came out, I was around 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. Not quite old enough in my lifetime. Not quite old enough to put all these together without help. So I have very vivid memories when I was doing this of my father helping me put this together. And it was a memory that I never even thought of. I mean, I certainly didn't think of it when I was putting any newer toys together. Because, when I'm, as an adult, when I buy these toys and I collect them, I'm not looking at them as a kid, from a kid's eyes. I mean, I have the nostalgia of being a kid, but I'm not looking at them from a child's eyes where I'm going to get it ready, get it set up so I can play with it. It's more about just admiring it and looking at it and understanding the detail and the artistry that went into it. It's very different. It's still good. It's a good thing, and I don't want to make light of it, but it's not the same. But something I was doing as I was building this on the high-speed video, I realized that I really had really pleasant, wonderful memories of my father, which is a nice thing because, for those that didn't know, my father passed away a few years ago, and we had a great relationship, and I was very fortunate, and I'm happy to have had him in my life as long as I have. But still, there comes a time when you get a little emotional about it, and that was something that who would have thought that bending cardboard and pushing it into plastic would have that for a toy, for a child's plaything, that would cause that. So I just wanted to share that. I thought that was really something special that happened. And to those of you that are probably looking at this video right now, screaming into your computers or your phones saying, "Why did you take a vintage item and mess and destroy it like that?" Well, I am going to say this. Had this toy been mint in the box, I don't know if I would have had the heart to open it up. I go back and forth about this because, on the one hand, I think it's a toy. It was meant to be played with, okay? It was meant to be looked at and admired, and it's like putting all these pieces in a box. I mean, that box might as well be filled with manure. If you don't open it up, what's the difference? Okay, you'll never, a collector's idea, they would never open it. It's far too valuable. It's like, very expensive wine that wine collectors drink, that they don't drink, or, just buying very expensive things that are valuable because they are mint and aren't untouched, but in a situation where you can't even untouch it. There's one thing about a figure in a package where you can clearly see the figure, you can clearly see the accessories, everything is in there. That's a different story. It's a small packaged item that you can still admire as a piece of art in the mint package. You don't have to take it out and display it. You can buy other figures to do that, right? But for play sets and vehicles that are completely unsealed in the box, I really feel there's another side of the story that says, guys, you really should be able to take it out of the box. You really should be able to display the piece. So that's kind of where I am about that. And this one sealed the deal because when I purchased it, I knew full well that it was not mint in the box. It was mint and complete, but not in the box. As you saw when it came, I just showed you exactly how it looked. I would have done the unboxing big box, but it wouldn't have fit in the screen. So I took it out of that box, and there were all these little packages, and I just opened it up like that. So I think that's a wise thing to remember. Okay, this wasn't cheap, but it wasn't. I will say this: it was probably among the cheapest things you could buy. When you were watching, I was watching this auction live, and I just was laughing. I mean, people paying $15,000, $20,000 for things, and I just like $15,000, $20,000. If I had that kind of discretionary income, as much as I love Star Wars, I don't even know if I would be able to put any large sum of money like that towards one item. Yes, a couple of $100. Okay, that's kind of middle of the road. Yes, even then I have to sometimes be very cautious about it. But thousands, when you start approaching even 1,000 and anything beyond that, it's really hard for me to do. But that's, again, we all come from different places, so it's all right. But anyway, This was a hoot putting together. It really brought back memories, as I said, brought back memories of me and my dad. My dad did most of it, but I watched and helped, and it was really, really cool. Now, I'm having like what I can only be described as deja vu or a fake memory. Maybe it's the Mandela syndrome or something, where I swear I might have already had this, but I have looked everywhere and it's nowhere to be found. So I might have had it and have gotten rid of it. I might have had something, there are two other items, the Rebel Command Center and the Land of the Jawas playset, that are almost identical toys. They just have a different backdrop, and the base, well, I think the Rebel Command Center is white and it's yellowish sand color for Land of the Jawas. So, but enough talk about that. Let's talk about this. So, it's a basic playset piece, okay? It came with a little accessory, came with a little laser disc. This is what's making me think that I might have had this at some point, because I remember having this. However, I think they released something like this as a as a mini rig. If you remember those mini rigs, maybe I'll do a whole separate show on mini rigs. And for those who don't know, those were little small vehicles, that like small price point vehicles that Kenner put out all throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Mostly, I think, from the Empire and Jedi stage. And they just were little tiny vehicles. Sometimes they were little variations on vehicles that you would see in the movies and stuff. And it was essentially like they described it as, they were there. They were in the movie. They were just off camera. They were like right there. So, who knows, but so I think they might have re-released this piece as a mini rig. So that could be where my brain is playing with me. It has been close to 40 years. So, but as you can see, you have this really cool backdrop, this three-dimensional AT-AT backdrop, really neat. And there are two major play features with this, which is going to be a little hard for me to demonstrate. I could not find a figure that was a vintage figure that wasn't fully encased in some type of a display case that you've seen in my unboxings. So I'm being forced to use some newer ones, or I should say, new vintage, as in Han Solo. You can tell by his bulky, beefy exterior that this is definitely probably the early 90s, which is now 20 years old, which is crazy to think about. But I'm going to pull this back just a little bit so I can kind of get behind it. I will say that, and I do remember this about these playsets, is that the cardboard has a folding back on the bottom, and the folding back, gravity being what it is, it kept wanting to go back this way. So these things tended to lean forward a lot. But that's okay, because they have some structure here to help stop it. It's also amazing to think that after this came out in 1980. So what's that? 90, 2000, 2010, 2019, 39 years. In 39 years, the thing it's been remarkably well kept. And the pieces all still bent, and the pieces all fit in just as well as they would on day one. There was only one little bend in this part right here that was new. All right, so I don't know if you can see. Excuse me. Vintage box dust. Excuse me. They come with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pegs. Okay, now I don't think these figures will fit in the pegs. Maybe they will. Yeah, the new figures now, they don't. So I can't really demonstrate that, but I can show you that on this one, right, there's a little, it has a cool little feature where you can slide this, right, and it can move the character, and when you slide it back, something like that happens. So what I'll do, I can't really demonstrate with the peg. You can imagine that there's a character on here, and then when you slide this thing one way, the character kind of moves this way. But so we'll just kind of put him right here. Come on, Han, stay up. All right, and then I'm going to just kind of set my little stormtrooper. I'm sorry, I couldn't even get a snowtrooper out. I have to be very careful with this. So I slide this way, right? And then when you slide it back this way, it had a cute little feature, very simple, and the thing just could, put a little push on the bottom of it, and the figure would fall down. So it gave you that little action figure, which was cool. And another feature that happened, and I don't think I can do it with this figure. I'll try to do it with the Stormtrooper. Another thing that happened, it has this little elevator at the bottom. Okay, and you put it here. Come on, Mr. Stormtrooper. And then you just go up. There it is. So, cute little play features. Again, this is essentially a figure or a play set from another time, another place, where this would have been enough to satisfy the imagination of children. Okay, obviously in this day and age, everything has to have electronics. And I'm not being an old fart. I'm like, get off my lawn. My day we didn't have electronics. Even though that's true, in my day we didn't have electronics. But it just, it's a. I don't want toys like this to exist again necessarily. I like when they try to be innovative with toys. I do hope that they keep making toys. I feel like we're getting further and further away from toys and play sets and vehicles, and more into more digital things and virtual reality and video games. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I just hope that there's room for both. That's all I ask. And, I don't see the toy industry where there are actual physical toys going away anytime soon. So the other thing that's exciting about this came with the nice Empire Strikes Back catalog, which included all the figures. And I remember what's really cool about this is a number of celebrations ago, there was a really cool exhibit where it was a guy wrote a book, The Man Who Shot Luke Skywalker. I think it's the name of the book. And it's all about the photographer who shot pictures of all the toys. And they had all of these great original pictures with the really multicolored backgrounds and the really special lighting that they did. It was really cool. So, but I looked through these things, and they were still selling. And again, I'll show close-ups of all this. They were still selling the Imperial Attack Base, the Creature Cantina, the Death Star Space Station, the Star Destroyer. Maybe I'll bring some of these out in later episodes. And there's the Land of the Jawas and the Hoth Ice Planet Adventure set. There was a Tauntaun, a Dewback, a Droid Factory, Cloud Car, Imperial Troop Transport, Snow Speeder, Millennium Falcon, Darth Vader TIE Fighter, regular TIE Fighter, X-Wing Fighter, Land Speeder. They had the 12-inch figures. And yeah, the 12-inch figures came out a little later, and they were, because they included Boba Fett and IG-88, which were clearly Empire Strikes Back figures. You could also get a Stormtrooper blaster, Han Solo blaster. They had the mini die-cast vehicles. They were a little bigger than what comes out now these days. And for them, you can get the TIE Fighter, X-Wing, Darth Vader TIE Fighter, Land Speeder, Y-Wing, Star Destroyer, Millennium Falcon, TIE Bomber, another Empire Strikes Back, and Cloud Car, Snow Speeder, and Slave 1. They also had the remote control the remote control Jawa Sandcrawler, which we've done early. Go back way in the earlier episodes, and you can see I did a little review of that. A remote controlled R2, a couple of board games, and the electronic battle command, light switches, the little projector. Such a cool thing, and it's such a great throwback to that. I think I'm almost as excited about this as I am about this. So. But I'm sure you can find, some people release these, and you can find these for less money on eBay. But before you'd even do that, I would say look around. You probably can find people have scanned PDFs of all of these. If you're just looking for the nostalgia, don't spend a huge amount of money. But so a great piece. I'm so glad I have it. It is not in that collection, so if I had it and got rid of it, I'm glad I have it back. If I never had it and I'm just having false memories because of this thing, I am glad I have it in with the other two land play sets to kind of complete the collection. So that will do it for this extensive episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. But it's not every day you open up a vintage item, and let me say that it's not every day. So if you're coming back hoping for vintage items, be aware I can review old vintage items. I can talk about them. I can review them, but I can't go out and purchase them and buy new ones because I have. As I said, everything I just read, I pretty much have all of them. They're loose. They've been played with. They're there's a dinginess to them and a definitely a lived-in look, as they say. So but as far as opening up brand new vintage items, that is not something I do very often on the show. These things were already out of the box. Yes, I did unpunch the cards on the cardboard, and if some people got upset at that, I apologize. It wasn't my intent to upset anybody. I simply wanted to put this together. So Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification button. Check out my videos on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter at Darth Tuba. Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing page on Facebook. And I will say, for future episodes, you can expect, as I said, there was a couple of pieces that I found that will go very nicely with that Jabba skiff. And I even have a place to display them on my little glass display. So we'll get to that in probably the next episode or the next 2 episodes. And yes, I know, the Clone Wars Vehicles episode, part 2, or part 2 of many. I have many more to do. It's going to be a little bit of work putting that together, and I've got some other things going on with the day job that make things a little more challenging to get that kind of extensive video done. So we'll get to it. Be patient. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.